Welcome to BeSimply. This is Suzanne Toro, and I want to thank you for joining us today. We have special guest, Cristi Christensen. She is an author, a wild woman, a source of inspiration and movement. Today, we're going to dive into aspects of your inner energy centers, aka chakras. Without further ado, let's dive in with Cristi.
So, Cristi, I want to thank you so much for being here in this moment. I love your incense. No one can see that, but
I have to bless the space, not just my space, but our collective space and the space of all the waves in which this is radiating out into the universe and everyone hearing it. So that's my little, my prayer.
Absolutely. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So, well, let's dive into that act of ritual since we're here, and then we'll get into all the yummy good stuff that you offer and create. Can you share, because this seems, and this is a theme in your book, ritual seems very important to the generations right now, especially I would say teens all the way up. Well, maybe through all, but I would say I'm seeing quite a bit through the younger generations that they're really wanting and seeking this. If you can share a little bit about the power of, creating a blessing, even creating sacred space in our conversation, what's possible within that?
Absolutely. I mean, well, first off, ritual can be the simplest thing. It doesn't have to be this overcomplicated, 17 step, process. To me, ritual is anything that you offer from your heart, from a place of presence, from a place of devotion and service in many ways, of like how in this moment, right, can this conversation be held and guided, right, by, for me, what I need is my grounding, my roots of support, so connecting me to the earth, then really opening up, the heavens for that divine communication to flow in and us to be in harmony and resonance, and then it to make an impact to serve, right? So in that little moment of using something that is meaningful to you, right? Because if it's not meaningful to you, then like you taking some incense and twirling them around, that it's not going to do anything. Right. So it's not about doing my ritual. It's about finding the things that light you up, because I look at ritual as they serve as a bridge. It serves as a bridge connecting our inner and our outer worlds. Beautiful. And and in my my book, I'd like to come up with I don't know if actually the right word is acronym or not, but taking the word ritual and then I give a word. I created a word for each one, and acronym. I'll share that. Okay, is that what I was like? Is that what it's called, an acronym? Okay, my brain was okay. Thank you for clarifying. And the R ritual stands for remember. Rituals help us to remember who we are and what we are connected to, right, through repetition. So it's something that we come back to again and again and again. So the ritual of waking up in the morning, how we wake up, the ritual of how we leave our house, the ritual of how I start a yoga practice, the ritual of how I eat my food, like all of this can be ritual. We bring it into our everyday life. And when they're performed, the I stands for intention, right? So there's a reason, there's a purposeful action and intention behind what we're doing, that their outcome is transformative. So when done with intention, the outcome is transformative. And by practicing them, the U is we gain better understanding of ourselves, of the earth, of the cosmos, of everything in between. And the A stands for awaken, awakening our authentic power. And most of all, the L stands for love, because they activate love, the most powerful energy frequency that there is. And how we would not want to bring all of that, into our life. And again, you can make it complicated if that's what you need to do, but it can be as simple as, like, in a really intentional, tender way, bringing your hands to your heart and just saying, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for having, thank you for this moment. And for me, ritual is it's part of my everyday existence. And when I'm in a ritual, I am in a much higher alignment and frequency and attunement with gratitude, with grace, with my grounding, and with my heart and my center.
Beautiful. So you have this book called Chakra Rituals. Hence an excerpt from the book and a perfect intro into and you mentioned the word bridge. And so now, and I was so excited for our conversation because there's a lot of, I don't know, we're in such a world of extreme polarity and division. And so I just got like energy in a good way for what we're going to discuss. So if you can share a little bit, because there's a lot of misinformation even being sent into the community and the science of yoga and even chakras. So and what you said is just so beautiful because it is the set and setting. It's the intention that in which we approach something, especially sacred to our soul and to our heart. If you can shine a bright light on the bridge when we connect to these energy centers within us, within all of us, everywhere, the spectrum of light, and how you're welcoming all of us to connect with that aspect of ourself.
Yeah, I mean, I've just to like kind of give a little backstory into this, you know, I've been teaching yoga and meditation and dance and speaking for about almost the last 20 years, and to tens of thousands of women in over 20 different countries. And what I have found, and especially even through the last couple of years, right, that most of us want the same things, right? We want joy, we want passion, we want purpose, we want connection, we want love, right? We want to feel safe, but we also want to have our wild freedom,
right?
And we want to feel comfortable in our own skin and want to come into connection with the goddess given gifts that have been bestowed upon us so that we can really serve in whatever our unique, you know, way really is. And from all that, what I think what we really want is we want to really come alive, come alive in this full spectrum, color and power.
Yeah.
But what most of us don't really realize is that we have this perfect living system inside of ourselves, right? This spiritual map, so to speak.
Yeah.
Probably, in my opinion, one of the greatest gifts the ancient yogis and rishis of India left us.
Right.
And that is this map of the energy body of the chakra system.
Yeah.
And to me, it is a map of wholeness, of returning whole, returning home to the essence of who you are and unlocking the power that lives within you at these 7 very distinct levels of consciousness. And, you know, a big inspiration, or that's kind of started the inspiration for the book, was this beautiful quote by, you know, Joseph Campbell, and it's part of a much larger, obviously, essay. But, you know, so many of us say that I'm seeking the meaning of life. What's the purpose of life? What's the meaning of life? It's like, and that's what we say we're seeking. But according to Joseph Campbell and me, I'll give him credit where credit's due.
Yeah.
It's not so much the meaning of life we're seeking. It's that rapture of what it is to be alive.
Yeah.
The rapture, the power, the awe, the wonder of what it is to be alive. And, you know, we live very complex lives, and I don't want to negate that in any way. And we're living in extremely difficult times, but also extremely powerful times.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And, you know, it's such a wild thing. Like, you're talking about this, you know, this duality, but at the same time, turning inward, connecting to who we are, connecting to our ground of support, connecting to everything that lives within, right? So that we can go on this journey of awakening, moving out of the comfortably numb, moving out of the disconnection, the disassociation, moving out of the judgment, moving out of, there's always going to be polarity, but being able to honor the polarity and say, okay, this is where I am and you're not right, I'm not right. There's different perspectives, right? We could say that's fifth and sixth chakra, right? So how we can really use this system to not only guide us in our awakening, but really guide us in our own transformation within ourselves, so that we can use it in our everyday life as we connect with others. My belief is we can't just get caught in the self-help journey, right? There has to be a moment where, or there has to be an integration with it of how personal transformation impacts collective transformation. And that every ritual I'm doing here, Om Shanti, is not just for this, but also to ripple out into the world. I kind of got on a little tangent there. So
no, perfect.
I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, two things. You speak with the pebble in the water, meaning that if we turn in and then kind of spiral out, that has an impact. And I would say some would, once they've gone on a spiritual journey, sometimes it's grandiose, like I need to impact and change the entire world. And then sometimes the realization is like, oh, I got to start here and see where my reach is, and what happens when I come into harmony here. And what was coming to me earlier today when I was preparing for this, just in meditation and intuitively, is that aspect of coming into union. I would say there's kind of that polarity that exists right now as the external kind of savior versus the internal. And savior is a funny word to use, but it's like turning in towards, I would say, AKA love or God or whatever you want to call it, or turning outward into God. And not saying that one path is better than the other. But if you can share, because that's where I was being pointed, is what you've seen through your students and yourself from turning inward and coming into inner union with themselves and the divine that runs through all of us.
Absolutely. I mean, well, first and foremost, we are microcosms of the greater macrocosm. We're little universes within ourselves, right? So we're all running around detached, disconnected, caught in anxiety and fear, no roots in the ground, not able to show up in love, not have good boundaries. That all of that energy is feeding the world. And we can look at it even, what's happening in the earth plane, right? What's happening on the earth, what's happening with the waters, the earth of our body, the waters of our body, the waters of, the ocean. So I am 100% in my own life, when I, and I'll speak on my own life and then with my students, but in my own life, we'll start from the first chakra perspective. When I'm grounded, when I am connected to my body, when I am connected to the present moment, because that's so much of what the root chakra is about. It's about being home in ourselves. It's about being able to show up and to be present, to feel safe and secure, and also to be able to live in relationship with the land. Like, I am 100% going to be able to show up better in every situation whatsoever. And that is going to impact the people around me, right? If I showed up for this conversation with you and I was, moving around a million miles, I know I move a lot when I speak, but if I was
I'm Italian, it's fine.
Okay, good. Me too. Moving around a million miles a minute. If I was ungrounded, if I was, you would sense that too. And right away, that would set the tone of our connection, right? So, as from the chakra perspective, as we come more connected to our bodies and we learn what that even means, it's also a journey of self-love, right? We learn how to take care of ourselves. We learn what real self-care is,
Yeah.
right? Whether that's that self-care might be saying no, or might be saying yes. Self-care might be taking a bath. I don't know. You
Yeah.
know, um, just really tending to, to our health and healing anything in the physical body that needs to be healed, you know? And then moving up into our second chakra of being in connected to the flow of feeling of
Mm.
our emotions, to what we desire, what we really want, and what we
Yeah.
really long for, and being able to move in that direction, right? What's going to
Mm.
happen around you? You're going to attract people that are vibrating like you are too,
Mm.
right? And then moving up into the third chakra, into our confidence and our power and our purpose
Mm.
and our ability to shine, right? To give ourselves really permission to shine, to be seen, right? And be willing to take a risk and fall on our face, right? All of
Yeah.
this all, is all supporting. And then, coming up into the heart and being able to live from a
Mm.
place of love, right?
Yeah.
From a place of, dignity and self-respect.
Mm.
And then
Oh.
also being able to forgive ourselves, to forgive our partners, our mothers, our fathers, our
Mm.
sisters, our brothers. You mentioned a moment ago about the spiritual path, and it might be something you said like grandiose, but sometimes like we go on the spiritual path and we realize what we need to heal is the relationships right in front of us,
Right.
or the
Oh.
relationships that of where we came from, right? I
Yeah.
mean, how many of us, are victim? We're all victim of less than perfect parents, right? Like no matter
Yeah.
how amazing our parents are, we're all victim. So
Yeah.
there's so much there. And moving up into the throat and being able to really speak and
Mm.
communicate with clarity and conviction, but with truth, to
Yeah.
stop telling lies, to not slandering
Right.
another, right? To
Oh.
communicate this vision we want for the world, the vision we
Yeah.
want for our life, right? With
Mm.
authenticity. um and really being able to celebrate our authenticity.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And then moving up into the sixth chakra, into the third eye, of moving beyond the binaries, moving beyond duality, right? And this coming in to this place of single pointed focus and awareness, but where it's also pure potentiality that we can reimagine, right? We
Mm.
can envision the life, the world
Yeah.
that we want to create, but from this deep inner attunement where we can see inside, and there's this inner illumination
Mm.
that we can trust in, right?
Yeah.
Trust in the divine, trust in our intuition.
Yeah.
And then all the way up into the crown, right? That we really recognize the whole system is about union, not just the crown, but it's at this place where now
Yeah.
we've come to the crown. We've learned to know God, know goddess, know higher self, consciousness, whatever word you have, right, for
Yeah.
that supreme source. We've gotten to know it at each of the 6 levels prior,
Yeah.
right? Because all the energy is spiritual. It's not all the energy is divine, like you said.
Yeah.
And I'm up here, and it's that remembrance that, oh, I'm one with everyone. We're
Mm.
different. We're celebrating the diversity of our
Yeah.
beings, but we all are breathing the same air. We're all being faced with similar but different circumstances. I think
Yeah.
one of the things COVID has really shown us is, there's no one on planet Earth that has not been touched personally by this point
Absolutely.
by the pandemic. And it is like I think for me has been this lesson of, oh my gosh, I could call someone in China, and I could call someone in Italy, and I can, and someone here, and we're all in this together, right? And I think
Absolutely.
in this strange way it has unified our world,
Mm.
for better or worse. But all of these as all of these things start to happen, your relationship with the outer world has to change. It
Mm.
can't stay the same, right?
Yeah.
It can't. When you're living in truth, when you're living in harmony, when you're living from your heart, and you're showing up this way in your power, everything around you is going to change,
Yeah.
right? The
Uh-huh.
people that aren't good for you, there's going to be conflict. the things in your life that are out of alignment, there's going to be a frequency that you're like, why does this not feel good? Or
Right.
there might be relationships that fall away. There might be work that fall away,
Yeah.
right? Because you are transforming. That's what this life is
Uh-huh.
about. It's not to stay stagnant, right? It's to continue to unfurl like the 1,000-petaled lotus, that infinite unfurling of the lotus flower on the crown of the head, right? So that we can continue to grow and expand and find new levels of freedom and embodiment and liberation, so that we
Yeah.
can do everything here on planet Earth that we embodied this form to do.
Yeah. Beautiful. And so you are a living, breathing example of everything you just said.
Thank
And
you.
include in there what you've witnessed in your students.
Yeah, I mean, I've
Without
witnessed
like
some.
compromising their
Oh,
confidentiality,
of
but just a,
course, of
a
course.
general.
Yeah. I mean, on the simplest levels, like let's, I do teach to men as well, but I've been focusing on women as of late because my book, the subtitle of my book is Awakening the Wild Woman Within.
Yeah.
So I've been leading specific women's groups now for
Yeah.
several years. So, I mean, let's just talk about the second chakra for a moment, right? How many of us and how many students that I've had that this is such a commonality of being disconnected from this area of our body to actually not being able to feel, right? Whether it's not being able to feel our emotions or not being able to feel and respond sexually because of the traumas and abuses that we have faced. And when I say that, of course, I mean sexual abuse, but not limited to that. It's also physical abuse. It's also emotional abuse and verbal abuse.
Yeah.
Any kind of abuse freezes the sacred waters here.
Yeah.
And we become disconnected. And some of us are non-orgasmic. Some of us are, just assume that part of us doesn't work or that's not for us or whatever. And I can't tell you how many women who have said to me that they haven't cried in 10 years.
Wow.
The waters are flowing, not in a way like, I don't know if you've ever had that experience of wanting to cry and not being able
of course. Yeah.
Yeah. So like wanting to cry and being able to, but then also and then how that, when you said it was okay for that, then even bigger openings to joy and laughter came.
Yeah.
Right. So
Beautiful.
there's when one end of the spectrum of feeling is blocked, it actually blocks the full spectrum of what is on the other side. Right. So this expansion of the bandwidth of what we can feel, and then the feeling that came within our own sexuality in being able to be comfortable enough in our own skin and be comfortable enough in our own power, right? To surrender to another in a way that feels safe.
Yeah.
And that you have your own autonomy and you get to say when and how and where, and, so hearing the stories of and again, even though this has started with second chakra, I mean that the safety is the first chakra, being comfortable in the body is the first chakra, surrendering to another, we could say, is even third and seventh chakra, so it's all, everything is working, together. That autonomy is third chakra. Yeah. So those are some examples. Others examples of the students that, wouldn't let themselves be seen, would be, kind of always hiding in the back corner of the room and the posture a little slouched. And if they asked a question, it was almost in a mumble. Right. Yeah. And then as they activated their power and realized they had permission to take up space and get out, like expand beyond their own limited constructs of maybe what someone else told them, they were capable of, or what they believed to be true themselves, and seeing them become confident, powerful women, start businesses. Because I teach a lot in some places that women aren't equal. I mean, I guess we could, that's a whole nother argument, but I teach a lot in China and in Indonesia and in Malaysia and all these places where women's rights is or women
Yeah.
are more considered like second
Yep.
tier, and
Yep.
their purpose is in service of their man.
Yeah.
So they don't believe they have this within them, and seeing like the tears happen when someone's like, oh my gosh, I never knew what I wanted before.
Yeah.
I never knew
Absolutely.
what I loved before.
Mm.
I never knew um, I could be powerful in this way.
Yeah.
So it's really, really amazing. I'm not
Mm.
sure if those are specific enough
Yeah,
examples, but
those are beautiful, really
yeah,
beautiful. And being that your book does
yeah,
speak to the wild woman, and just
mm,
to your, pointing out that we're at a point where, like, the end of Kali Yuga, it's like
fuck,
a
Susan.
wild. It's okay, you can
Yeah,
cuss. Uh, we're we're shouting Kali Ma, like, come on,
yeah,
let's slay all this. But
yeah,
we are at a point where it's interesting, you talk about the second chakra, that this is a creation center. Like I always tell
yeah,
people, this is your sacred place, not
yeah,
only for intimacy, but the energy in which we put into all things. So what you
yes,
pointed out about women being put aside, and what
yeah.
appears to be happening is, as I witness the full spectrum of women,
Mhm.
nature is doing something very interesting. And you can correct me if you're not
Yeah.
seeing the same thing. There seems to be a preservation of the female embodiment right now
Mhm.
from almost all ages. And then
Mhm.
there seems to be a faster, and I'll just call it aging, in the male embodiment. So if you compared by decades, you would see something a little different. Um, and so this has brought to me that I feel like what's happening and what's supposed to happen is we're coming into that balance
Mhm.
by uh, that whole phase of hierarchy. Because in all the traditions, even in yogic and Buddhist, the woman is put aside,
Mhm.
yet she's the
Mhm.
creator of all things, of
Right.
all life here, right? So if you can share a little bit how you see the wild woman, like, uh, resurrecting herself in this moment to
Yeah.
assist all those generations, because it feels like the female embodiment, and this is no,
Mhm.
we have to bring our sons and our partners and friends and brothers along, is being
Of
given
course. Of
extra
course.
juice right now
Yeah.
to bring that youthfulness, that vitality, that groundedness, and that remembrance of our ability to create for all, for the benefit
Mhm.
of all. You can speak a little bit
Yes.
to that.
Yeah. I will do my best. There's never been a more important time for women, and in history, as far as I'm concerned, to remember and reclaim who we really are. Right. And the things, and we also are living in a very interesting time, even with all the craziness that's happening in the world, and especially in America with what just, I don't even have to mention, but we all know what
Yeah.
I'm talking about. Um, that we're, we're we've never been more empowered as a species, so to speak, right? And I think we're starting to see more women leaders. We're starting to see examples of little girls can look on TV and see women doing things that before they never had this
Yeah.
example of. So yes, there is definitely this rise of power for the feminine, as far as I'm concerned. And I think this point of the wild woman is, we were born wild, but at
Yeah.
some point in time we forgot. And again, whether that wild nature was cloaked in or covered in our trauma or our conditioning, or lost in all the different responsibilities that we have in life,
Yeah.
right? But reclaiming your wildness, to me, is the chakra system, is returning home to the sacred elements, right? It's returning home to, like, being connected and living in relationship with nature, right?
Mm.
To be living in rhythm and relationship with all of life,
Yeah.
right? Fully activated at each of these centers, so that we can take the seat of ourselves, right? We
Mm.
come into this union, we come back into our wholeness,
Yeah.
right? We heal, we transform so we can rise up. And each individual woman that does that, as you talked about, we're bodies of light, right? We've got this glowing light, this rainbow light that's
Yeah.
activated, and consciously or unconsciously, other women are seeing it, and they are being called to do the
Mm,
same. And
absolutely.
this is what I think is absolutely necessary at this time. Um and finding our voices within the anger,
Mm,
right? So that we can stand up for the injustice, and not just to yell and
mm,
scream, right?
yeah.
But to actually band together to create systems, right?
Mm,
And um, so that we can actually impact change.
mm. Oh,
So being able
yeah.
to harness that energy, yes, use the anger as fuel, but not
Yeah.
just to yell at everyone who's doing the things that we don't want, actually to be able to direct it in a useful way,
Yeah.
right? So that we can work together. And I think through this and through us coming into alignment, because we have a bad reputation of coming into power in the sense of like tearing each other down,
Mm.
right?
Uh-huh.
I don't know if you've ever
Yeah.
experienced that in your life
Yeah.
of, like
Absolutely.
women like to gossip and they're catty, and they, someone's shining brighter and we try to pull them back down. And
Yeah.
I really believe that returning to that wild essence nature of who
Mm,
you are, and reclaiming that, and coming into unity and harmony with your power, that won't happen. That doesn't happen anymore, because we
yeah.
can see that each of us is an integral piece of the puzzle that is needed
Right.
and necessary to bring this
Yeah.
transformation forward.
Yeah.
It's not about
Absolutely.
competition. It's not about comparison. It's not the old paradigm of power that the patriarchy came up with anyway,
Yeah.
right? Um,
Yeah.
so th-
Absolutely.
that's really how, but it takes us also time to be, and being willing to do the work, right?
Yeah.
Do the work to feel, do the work to heal.
Mm, yeah.
But I believe also when we do that, we're not just healing for ourselves, we're healing the generations that came before us. And
Yeah.
then therefore we're healing the generations that are going to come after us. And
Yeah.
if we can remember that, even in the difficult times, when you're like, I don't know, I kind of like the comfortably numb better, right? I like ignorance was bliss better.
Yeah.
If we can remember that the world is so much bigger than even we are, and that
Absolutely.
the ripples of impact are happening in ways that, maybe once we return to the stars or whatever it is you believe we go, like we won't maybe even know till then.
Yeah. Absolutely. Beautifully said. And when you speak of the wild woman and
Yeah.
anger, and I
Mhm.
mentioned Kali Ma,
Yeah, that's why it
uh,
came out, I think.
yeah. Well, there's been wars. The war in uh,
Yeah.
Ireland
Yeah.
was stopped by two women, one Protestant, one Catholic, because
Wow.
they said enough was enough to be fighting over uh,
Mm.
Christian faith perspectives. So, if and they did that by going door to door, hand in hand, you know,
Wow.
and
Wow. That's
so,
incredible.
and I'll link when we post on my page and here I'll link it both below so people
Please,
can
yes.
see that.
I
Um,
want to see it.
yeah, pretty powerful. And so if
Hmm.
you can share a little bit, because I've said, forgiveness might be the first place we have to start from sister to sister, because
Yeah. Yeah.
ultimately we as female embodiment are birthing
Hmm. Hmm.
all aspects of human life,
Hmm.
male and female. And so if we're not good and
Yeah.
aligned, it makes it
Yeah.
difficult for us to raise our next generations together. Whether you're destined
Great.
to have a child or not, it's
Right.
usually in the past it was done by the community. It's not just the ma and pa.
One
Everyone
person.
works
Yeah.
together to raise the children.
Hmm.
Um, so if you can share about the power, even in the retreats that you lead, of women letting down their guard and opening themselves
Mm.
up to love from one feminine to another, one level of
Mm.
trust to another, because
Yeah.
that feels like a very strong bridge for right now.
Absolutely. And you actually spoke it already. I mean, I think it comes down to trust. It's how do we've all experienced things that would bring everyone to our knees, right? We've all experienced different levels of trauma in different situations, and I think because of that, we put on a protective shield, right? So that we feel like we can show up in the world. And because we've been hurt and possibly we've been taken down by a woman, a man, it doesn't matter, in some capacity, that when what I've seen when women come together in these groups on these retreats, like even the first day of, having them dance together or having them even just sit eye to eye and allow themselves to really be seen and to share what is really authentically, what their real feelings are. As women, we carry a lot of shame, right? We carry a lot of guilt. And what I have witnessed and even witnessed in myself, it's like, we don't want someone to see that part of ourselves because we're afraid, right? We're afraid we're going to be judged. We're afraid we're going to be made fun of. We're afraid someone else then won't like us. We're afraid we're going to be abandoned, whatever it might be, right? And creating a space that's sacred enough, right? That people can connect and find that level of safety within themselves, right? And opening up to trust that nothing bad's going to happen if they actually allow their true self to be told, shown. Because always what happens, the people that get paired together are the ones that like have like the medicine that the other person needs almost.
Yeah.
Or it's like there's maybe something you're wrestling with that you haven't been able to speak to anyone, and this person's telling you their story, the exact same thing, and you're, whether you admit it or not in that moment, you're like, oh my gosh, she's going through it too. If she's going through it and she seems to be okay, I'm going to be okay too. Seeing those points of connectivity and it's transformative. And then through that trust, like a sisterhood is built. You may not have known this person very long, but in those moments and those conversations, and when we're on retreat, my normal retreats are 5 to 7 days, and I've even done immersive like 21-day experiences, so a lot happens in that
Absolutely.
time. And it's a roller coaster. It's not all beautiful, like of course it's the spanda, it's the pulsation of it all, because as we soften, we feel more, right? The armor comes down, the ice melts, and then that's when fear can come up and resistance comes up, and it's a lot. But I didn't know what true sisterhood was until the last 10 years. I grew up in a family of abuse, and I was actually abused by my grandmother. And so from a very young age, again, this was unconscious, I didn't I trusted women less than I trusted men.
Wow. Yeah.
And it wasn't until later in life that was confirmed, that that's what happened, that I realized why, like, I didn't trust women. And then of course, we create situations that kind of verify our, women are going to do me wrong kind of things, right? So I created situations to like prove it, prove my hypothesis.
Yeah.
And it took me a long time. Like, it was me actually connecting with the goddess. Like, I goddesses of any tradition are wonderful. I have an affinity for the goddesses in the Hindu sect, and really connecting with the goddess was my first big healing with the sacred feminine.
Wow.
And then
Beautiful.
having to, and then taking that and then taking it in relationship with myself. And then moving into my family, to my sister, my mother's still a work in progress,
Yeah, absolutely.
things, but that's how for me, you know, played out.
Mm.
And again, the forgiveness of self-compassion,
Mm.
right? To release the self-judgment, and, you know, just being open to, you know, listening and holding space for, just listening and holding space for another
Yeah,
will transform someone's life. You know, and you see that
absolutely.
happen because no
Yeah,
one has listened to them before. No one has
right.
heard their stories that maybe a therapist did, but that's like, well, I'm paying you. It's a different, it's
Yeah,
not the heart connection, right? It's
yeah,
not the,
yeah,
um, and without, they have nothing to gain by
yeah.
giving you the right answer. There's no answers necessary. Sometimes it's
Mm.
just holding that space for another to just talk,
Yeah.
right? And be listened to, be heard, and not even have to offer any, like, not trying to fix you, right? I'm
Mm.
just here to witness you and hear you,
Yeah,
you know?
absolutely. Beautifully said. So, we're going to be airing this very soon, but it'll still be eternal because it
Of
doesn't
course,
go away.
everything's eternal, right?
Everything is eternal, and then in the digital age, it makes it a little bit easier to be so. Um,
Yeah.
you have a retreat coming up where people can dive into your wisdom. And I
Yes.
understand you have a few more spots. If you can share a little bit about that, and then if you have any other
Yes.
future ones coming up.
Yeah, absolutely. So, August 15th to the 19th, I'm headed to a place called Esalen. It is a powerful, magical vortex on planet Earth. It's in
Yeah.
Big Sur, California, and so many great teachers and thought leaders and wisdom keepers have been teaching there for the last 50 years. And it's a really, really, really a privilege and an honor to be offering a retreat there. I'm so excited. And two of my creative partners will be joining me that are musicians. So one
Mm.
is DJ Marques Wyatt. We have a yoga dance collaboration we've been doing
Yeah.
together for about 10 years. And then another man named Joel Long, aka Dvine, one who he plays the sitar, the classical Indian
Mm.
instrument, and percussion. So it's going to be a complete musical journey through the chakras for
Oh,
5 days.
wow. Beautiful.
Yeah, taking us really in celebration, really, of all
Mm.
the energy that we are, because I feel like we could all use some more celebration in our life right now,
Yeah.
and to learn how to access the joy in our life,
Yeah.
even in times that may not feel joyful,
Yeah.
right? So it honoring the path of liberation and freedom, but also really honoring that path of enjoyment. So of course we'll be using many of the teachings from the book. We'll be in this exquisite nature right at the ocean's edge. We've got the redwood trees. We got hot spring tubs, the natural spring water. We've got farm to table food. It's and just incredible like-minded people. And we have 46 people signed up right now. So we have 4 spots left. So if you
Nice.
want to come for this really unique experience, because normally we don't have the budget, or we can't coordinate the schedules to be able to actually bring the live musicians. So
Yeah.
it's just gonna create a whole
Over the
nother
top.
level of, it's gonna be really,
Yeah.
really beautiful. I'm really excited. So I'd love to share that with anyone who has it in their heart to come. And then I'm launching a new course that's going to be
Mm.
coming. I'll be announcing it, but I'll pre-announce it with y'all
Yeah.
on August 19th, which is the year anniversary of my book coming out.
Oh, beautiful.
Which is
Okay.
crazy. And it is a chakra activation course with Toro.
Okay.
So my other
Beautiful.
beloved love is the Toro, and so it's going to be made up of practices that will be smaller practices, like 20 minutes each. For each
Mm.
chakra, there'll be a video, a dynamic vinyasa video. There'll be a dynamic
Nice.
meditation. There'll be a dynamic dance. And then there'll be a talk that will talk about the theme of the
Beautiful.
chakra, the theme of the Tarot. And there'll be a live component with it as well. So that's going to be announced next month, but launching
Perfect.
in September.
Okay.
Yes.
Beautiful. So a lot of good, yummy things. And
Lots of good, yummy things.
yeah, we'll include all of that below. And then when it's
Awesome.
official, we'll add the course and
Thank you.
share all this. And then if you can share with the listeners where they can connect to you, your website, I'll put the link, but it's always good to say below.
Yes. The best places to connect to me, or believe it or not, is Instagram.
Okay.
I do read all my DMs. So that's at Cristi_Christensen.
Okay.
Then my link tree is there, and
Okay,
it has
perfect.
my personal website, CristiChristensen.com. It has my book website, Chakra Rituals, and then it also has links for the ongoing courses I have, the retreat. So it's kind of like an easy place to find everything. And if you want to book a Toro reading with me, if you want to check out my clothing line, all of it's there.
Beautiful. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I could sit here and talk to you forever, and I appreciate all your enthusiasm and everything. It's okay. It keeps it real.
I'm like, there's like literally the
I kind of like that. Like if old school, we were on dial-up phones and we could hear the environment, so it's all good. But I want to thank you so much for being here and all that you give the world around you, and really being the embodiment of the pebble to the water and letting it radiate out. So thank you, Cristi.
Aww, thank you.
It's just such an honor and a pleasure to talk with you, and I'm super grateful for the opportunity, and thank you for having me, truly.
Thank you.
Once again, I want to thank Cristi for being here today, and all of you listening in. As inspired and where possible, please support her great work. There are many opportunities with links below. If you are listening real time, you can dive into her upcoming retreat. Currently, there are a few more spots available for those souls destined to be there. And we're going to exit out, if you want to stay a little bit longer, to the song Shine by Kadri Scott. It's an ode to Cristi, how you encourage all of us to look at the good in life and to shine on. Until next time, this is Suzanne Toro signing out with a soft gaze, a gentle smile, a deep bow, and a namaste. Be simply.